Peace be with you. Dear friends, welcome to Living Flame podcast, website, and Facebook group. Gospel Reflections for Good Friday. This is the most important day for all of us to meditate on the suffering, death of Jesus on the cross. Gospel is taken from John chapter 18, verse 1 to chapter 19, verse 42. Dear friends, when we read this gospel passage, we find how terrible was the crucifixion of Jesus. Now, just to give a little background to the crucifixion that was practiced by the Romans. Mainly the Romans were crucifying the Jewish people, especially the insurgents. Now, you can just imagine why they crucified Jesus, not because of his blasphemy, but because the Romans thought that he was an insurgent like Barabbas. And they were giving a clear signal and clear message to the Jewish people that if you create a situation of riots, there will be this punishment. And that's why we know historically the Romans crucified hundreds and hundreds of people. And this was a terrible punishment for those criminals. Now it is said that those people who were crucified along with Jesus on the right side and left side, they were the companions of Barabbas. Even though Barabbas was released at the request of people, high priests and the elders, those two people were crucified. There is no historical data to support this, but then one thing we can clearly understand that the Romans were very particular to crucify those people who created commotion, riot, and disturbance in the community against the Romans. Now, when we meditate on the crucifixion of Jesus, dear friends, we have to see the facts here. I just would like to give you a spiritual interpretation to the crucifixion of Jesus, apart from what we have just heard from the gospel. Now, the vertical bar signifies Jesus' communion with the Father. He came from the Father and therefore he had to go back to the Father. So constant communion with the Father through prayer, and we know throughout his life he was always in communion with the Father, talking to him, praying to him, and even doing the work of the Father and telling the word of the Father to his disciples. The horizontal bar, his communication and communion with the people. Jesus came down from the Father, but then he was with the people, touching them, working miracles, healing them, preaching to them, teaching. That is his communion and relationship with the people. Now there are three nails that represent, I feel the three nails represent our faith, hope, and charity. Jesus gave us that hope. He had tremendous faith in the Father and that he is lovable and loving. That's why the greatest commandment he gave to his disciples, love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind and strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Now there is also a great devotion to 5 wounds of Jesus. Some say the 7 wounds of Jesus. Let us reflect on them, especially today. The wounds on his hands, right and left, the wounds on his feet, the wound of the crown of thorns, the wound at his side, and the wounds that were inflicted because of the cross on the shoulders. So they could be 5, they could be 7. Now, especially when we look at Jesus on the cross, he uttered those 7 words from the cross. They are significant too on this day. Father, forgive them, they do not know what they do. Jesus came to forgive sinners. I have come to call back the sinners and not the righteous. That the second word that comes down from the cross is you will be with me in paradise. Jesus' whole mission was to give paradise to those people who were around him. So through his parables and teachings, he always invited people to reflect on the wonders of God's kingdom, that is the paradise ultimately we are all going to enjoy through Jesus. The words to his mother and to the beloved disciple: Woman, this is your son. Son, this is your mother. The greatest sacrifice Jesus made on the cross was to give his mother as our mother, mother of humanity, Mary, our beloved mother, who always intercedes for us. Then the fourth word comes down from the cross is, Father, why have you abandoned me? Now, this is an abandonment that Jesus suffered on the cross. And Father was silent. This had to happen. My God, why have you forsaken me? And Jesus utters these words. The fifth word, I thirst. Jesus was really thirsting. Not only physical thirst, but he was thirsting for the souls of humanity. And then finally, he cries out, it is finished. The mission that was entrusted with Jesus